Hello, it's Peter Wright and Kathleen Beauvais with another episode of the Yakking Show. As always, we have a really interesting guest for you today. But first, let's introduce co-host Kathleen. Hi, Kathleen. How are you doing on this snowy winter's Ontario day?
It is cold, Peter. Hello, and thank you also very much for tuning into our show. We so appreciate having you. And today we have a very tantalizing and possibly controversial topic. And I can't wait to delve into this. Our guest today is an absolute expert, and we are so delighted to have her on the show. Welcome, Dee Manny. Hello, Dee. How are you?
Hello, Kathleen. Oh, thank you so much. And what an intro, tantalizing and controversial. Okay, I'm definitely controversial, that's for sure.
Well, Dee is the author of the best-selling cancer book titled My Way. She is the owner of My Way CBD, which provides an award-winning range of CBD wellness products. So today's topic is all about cannabis, folks. So stay tuned. She's also an international cannabis consultant and natural health expert. So let's just dive right into this topic, Dee. Really, why CBD?
Pretty much why cannabis first.
Okay.
CBD was kind of just a byproduct of what I'm about. So in 2017, I was diagnosed with an aggressive type of cancer, triple negative breast cancer, grade 3. I was told that with treatments being chemotherapy, radiotherapy, etc., I would have probably 2 years to live. And without treatment, I would have 1 year to live. So I thought, okay. Now, just before I was diagnosed, a few years before I was diagnosed, my sister was diagnosed with liver cancer.
Oh,
And she went through the whole, chemotherapy, radiotherapy. When she was diagnosed, they told her she had 2 years to live. She listened to the doctor, she did chemo, she did radiotherapy, and in the 2 years from diagnosis up until the when she passed, literally 2 years on the dot, she was practically in and out of hospital. She had no quality of life. She had chemo practically from day one, and she passed away from the day she was diagnosed. If because she just didn't live. So in my head, I'm thinking, right, okay, so I can either go the way that my sister went, or I can do something else about it. They did tell me that without treatment, I would only have 1 year, but then with treatment, I would only have 2 years. When they start giving you all the I'm not even going to call them side effects because they're not side effects, the direct effects.
yeah.
Chemotherapy, they're all direct effects. So when they were reeling off the whole direct effects, which would be instant because I needed the strongest chemo that they possibly had. For the whole of that 1 year of treatment, I was going to be probably bedbound anyway because it would have destroyed me. It would have destroyed my whole
Mm.
life. So then I kind of thought, well, I'm just going to take my risks. I'm going to take my chance. You can't guarantee that after chemo, I'm still, because they already told me that I'd be probably dead after 2 years. So what is the point in putting my body through 2 years of torture? Because that's what it is. It's torture and poison, because that's what chemotherapy is. It's mustard gas from World War One. Why am I putting my body through all of that torture and poison just to live an extra year? It was
Mm.
nonsensical to me. So I researched, I delved into it, and I'm from a pharmaceutical background as well. So when I left college, I went into pharmaceuticals only because, not because I liked pharmaceuticals. I mean, then I was very young. I was 17 when I started. It was the highest paid job that I thought that I could do.
Okay.
So, and at that age, I just wanted money. I just wanted, where you're looking at the list of careers, what career is going to give me a steady income? I didn't want to be a doctor, didn't want to be a nurse. So I thought, right, okay, I'll go into pharmaceuticals. So I trained for 5 years, but after about the first 2 years, I started understanding the whole corruption of the whole industry. We wasn't making people better, we were getting people sick. I only had 2 years left, and after 5 years, it was so bad that I had to walk away because, all the pharmacists know, all the dispensaries know, everyone that is in that industry knows that these pills, these drugs are not healing people. It was a joke. When we used to have people used to come into the pharmacy and we would bet, everybody in the team would bet, is that patient going to come back in? Is she going to need heart pills? Is she going to need cholesterol pills? Is she going to be diabetic? We all knew that all of these pills that, somebody could just go in for something silly like, I don't know, I say silly, but nothing silly really. But say somebody just went in for cholesterol issues, which cholesterol isn't even a bad thing really. They just
Right.
want to
That's
make
right.
out that it's bad. So they put them on these statins, they put them on these pills, and we know guaranteed within 6 months they're going to come back with another issue. So after about 5 years, it took its toll, and I thought, I can't do this. This is just not an industry that I want to be in. I wasn't interested in the money at that point. I just wanted to leave because it's soul crushing to know that you are, pumping. And I think the point for me in my pharmaceutical days is that I was responsible towards the end. So when we used to have then, I'm sure they do now, get a lot of heroin addicts, and they have to be on a protocol of taking methadone, which methadone is basically just legalized heroin. It's synthetic heroin. That's really what it is. So I was the one responsible that I had to give the heroin addicts, they had to come into the dispensary, had to come into the pharmacy, but we would have to watch them drink the actual methadone. They couldn't take it away because we knew that they would sell it, on the streets, sell it to buy real heroin. So we had to sit there with them, and that was my job. That was my task. I had to sit there, and I'm sitting there with these heroin addicts who, they're not bad people. They've just had a bad look at the draw. Something's happened in their life to make them end up on the streets, because most of them were on the streets, living rough, living homeless, on in now suddenly fast forward into a program. So we aren't helping them by putting them on methadone. All we're doing is giving them legalized heroin. So they're still addicts, they're still in the system, they're just in a legalized system. And through me talking to them, because they used to come in every day, I used to sit with them, I didn't rush them. I got to know them, I got to know their life, I got to know whatever, why they ended up on the streets. And it was that point where I thought, I can't do this. I'm literally keeping you on the streets because I'm keeping you on this crap, basically, So at that point, I stepped away from the pharmaceutical industry. So I always knew that anything to do with big pharma, anything to do with drugs that were legalized and poisons were not going to help me. So I delved into natural methods, natural reasons, and because if the cancer that I had wasn't as aggressive, if it was just, I'm not going to say a regular cancer because all cancer is pretty much bad, but if it wasn't so aggressive, I probably would have just tried to handle it with diet and supplementation. But because triple negative doesn't have a great statistical response anyway, however, all the data is flawed anyway. So I don't even know why people listen to data because it's all biased, it's all flawed by Big Pharma.
Right.
But anyway, I found there was just one report online with somebody that had my type of cancer, and she was an elderly lady, and she healed with cannabis. So I thought, right, okay, if she can do it, and she's elderly, and I felt like I was fit, I was in my prime, I was in my early 30s, then why can't I do it? Early 40s, sorry, not early 30s. So I thought, right, okay, I'm going to heal myself naturally. So I literally spent, because when you're diagnosed with cancer, for the first 2 weeks, you are in and out of hospitals. It's a test after a test after a test, heart test, MRI, scans, CT scans, ACGs. It's literally, you are literally in the doctors or hospitals every day for the first 2 weeks before they decide what they want to do with you. It's all part of the fear. It's ridiculous.
Sure.
It's crazy.
I've got to jump in, Dee. Sorry, we'll get into specifics of cannabis in a moment. I'm really intrigued though. When you've lived in many countries, you were telling us earlier. So where was this when you were diagnosed? You
I
went
was
to
at the time I was living in Tenerife in the Canary Islands in Spain.
in Tenerife, in Spain.
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
in
So
2017. So the good thing was I had private medical.
okay, okay, but not as expensive as somebody would be facing in the US, right?
In terms of cancer treatments, like the oncologies, well, I think most people in the States have to have medical
Oh
insurance
yes,
anyway,
sure,
don't they?
sure.
Yeah,
Okay. So we'll get more into specifics in a moment. I've got a question for you coming from my background of a boomer generation brought up in a very conservative British-oriented society in Southern Africa where any suspicion of drugs was a total taboo. And I'm saying drugs in the broader sense.
yeah.
And in fact, drug problems with teenagers was so minimal and so well hidden for the few that got involved that it was something as teenagers we weren't even aware of. I'm sure there were people who got into cannabis, dacha as it was called in South Africa, but we came from that background where it's totally evil. It's totally no-no. So in recent years in Canada, when it was legalized, I still had that bias, and I still have that bias. So I'm sure I'm not unique. I'm sure many of my generation who might come to you for advice have that background. How do you get over that? How do you get rid of that bias that many people have?
Because we need to understand that it's societal prejudices. And so cannabis, if you look back, and this is why I've gone on the path that I've gone on now.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2017, I got cancer. I healed from cannabis. I healed. I could have just said, right, okay, and carried on living my life and just forgetting about cancer. Because once, when you've had cancer and you've healed, you can be one or the other. You can just completely want to forget about it. You don't want to even hear the word cancer, or you are out there to fight and to help other people heal, especially if you've got natural. Now, the thing is with me is that, yes, cannabis, and you said that about drugs, it should not be classed as a drug. It's not a drug, it's a plant. It's a plant. It's grown. Anybody can grow it. Everybody has the ability to grow, and everybody should be taking cannabis. Now, in 1930, if you look at, so first of all, if you look at any of the medical history books back to the, BC days, in the 17th century, 18th century, people were healed with cannabis, with marijuana. They were healed with tinctures, they were healed with oils. This was a normal thing. We didn't have big pharma. We didn't have pharmaceuticals. If you look back, like, so if everybody asked their ancestors, so your great great grandparents, how did they used to heal? They used to heal with herbs and with teas.
Yep.
It used to have villages. If anybody was sick, somebody in the village would make a herbal tea. Now they call these kind of people witch doctors.
Yep.
We're not witch doctors at all, or herbalists. They're just people that actually understood the body and what herbs can do. So cannabis, yes, it's frowned upon because it's classed as a drug. And it's not a drug, it's a plant. So if you forget about governmental involvement and you can forget about all the prohibition, if you look back on the actual plant, it was saving lives for centuries before it was closed down. The reason why it was, you can look in 1939, so the Cancer Act, 1939 Cancer Act. If you look up the 1930 Cancer Act, it basically means that if any body in the medical industry or medical profession or health profession promotes natural remedies to heal cancer, they will immediately be struck off. So I think a governmental act such as that in itself should tell people that the government don't want to heal you.
No.
Because if the government wanted to heal you, it wouldn't matter what was healing you, as long as you're healed and you're fit and better,
Absolutely.
So that came in the 1939. So 1937, 2 years before that, was the marijuana tax, which they did it in purposely to cripple the marijuana industry. When they knew that people within the industry were still carrying on, the 1939 Cancer Act came in. The government knew that people were healing cancer anyway with cannabis. That's why they put the 1939 Cancer Act in. So doctors were forbidden. Health advisors, everybody was forbidden. If you spoke about cannabis and you was the doctor, immediately you would lose your license, you'd get struck off. So this is why doctors were scared. It was removed. It was removed from all of the medical books in 1937. It was like cannabis just didn't exist.
It's really quite evil, wasn't it? That was absolutely evil. Now, Dee, I just want to clarify. So this was a treatment that you used, but you've actually cured your terminal cancer.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And when I say
Absolutely.
cannabis as well, so it wasn't. People think of cannabis is smoking. It wasn't. I wasn't smoking. It was oils. So I have to, and CBD and cannabis oil are completely different. But for me to heal and to heal for not only cancer, for the majority of illnesses, we need cannabis oil. So cannabis oil gets to the roots, and it healed my cancer, and it's gone on, and it's healed, thousands and thousands of other people all over the world from cancer, and it can heal, and it heals naturally. And there's a reason why it heals, because We all have an endocannabinoid system, and this is something I do talks about, I write about, I do articles about, until everybody needs to understand that. So we all have, I think there's 12, 13 systems in the body, the immune system, the central nervous system, the cardiovascular system, the respiratory system, all of the endocrine system. All of these systems are fueled by the one system, which is the biggest system in your body, and it's called the endocannabinoid system. Okay, the endocannabinoid, or the ECS for sure, that was taken out the medical books in 1937. So now, if you think about physiologically, if you think about your biology of your body, all of these systems, where are they reporting to? It's like the motherboard. It's like the way to describe it is like a fuse box. So, if you have a fuse box and you have all the fuses and you have the one main fuse, if you take that one main fuse out, all of the rest of the fuses, they don't work. You need to have that one. The main fuse of your body is your endocannabinoid system. So when it starts to deplete, when it starts to become deficient, all your other systems will start to fail as well. And that's why. So the endocannabinoid system, your body naturally makes up cannabinoids. It naturally makes. So say, for instance, runners get something called runner's high, which is euphoria. And that's the brain. It's the brain, the chemicals in the brain, which give in the runner's high. And this is why when people exercise, they feel great. This is why people with mental health issues or struggling, if you exercise or if you're having a bad day, go for a 30-minute run or do a little jog or do something, jumping jacks, and you will feel so much better because you get what's called the high, the euphoric high, because your brain recognizes that this is great. So what's happening is your body is making up its own cannabinoids. You see, so when your body makes up your own cannabinoids, it means your endocannabinoid system is fueling. So it's fueling all your other systems. In terms of mental health issues, then it fuels your central nervous system. So then you all of a sudden will feel a little bit happy rather than sad. When you're feeling sad, it's because your central nervous system is depleting. So we need to raise it up. This is why we have so many addicts. This is why people turn to drugs and to alcohol. So, when people are, even people smoking marijuana, smoking cannabis or whatever, when people are smoking or drinking alcohol, they're not just doing it because they're doing it. They're doing it because they're escaping reality, and it's making them feel good.
So Dee, maybe you can break it down a little bit for us. So you said that you cured it by taking a cannabis oil. So internally, so you actually ingested cannabis.
Yeah.
So now there's cannabis, you said cannabis oil, and then there's CBD, which is different, you said. And then of course there's this THC component. Can you break those down for us so we can have a better understanding?
Okay. So you have the cannabis plants.
Yeah.
So the whole of the cannabis plants, what we use is in terms of making oil. So the cannabis plant has hundreds of different types of cannabinoids inside that plant, scientifically. I think it depends. Some scientists say 400, some scientists say 200. Nobody actually really knows. So the whole cannabis plant contains all of these different cannabinoids. The two cannabinoids, which most people know, is CBD and THC. Those are the two most important. But then you've got hundreds of other cannabinoids which people don't even know about. So the whole of the plant, when the whole of the plant is used to produce oil, so the plant is used, we produce oil from the whole of the plant. We've got all of those cannabinoids, and all of those cannabinoids are enclosed, if you like, in that one oil. So that one oil that you're producing from that one plant, all of the plants, leaves, roots, everything, that's producing cannabis oil, which contains over 200 different cannabinoids, THC and CBD being the two. Now, CBD is just one component of the whole plant. So CBD oil is just basically one extract of the plant. So in terms of healing, the best way to describe it is, if you've never had any, I was going to say never had any sickness, but we all, to be honest with you, we've all had something going on internally.
Sure.
But if you haven't had any critical illnesses or any crucial illnesses, if you've never been diagnosed with cancer, if you take CBD every single day, it should prevent you from ever getting cancer. because it's
Ah,
keeping your endocannabinoid topped up. Obviously, if you're going to pump your body full of poisons in the form of jabs and vaccines, then it's going to deplete your endocannabinoids. But if you have a relatively healthy life, if you don't have vaccinations, if you don't take a lot of big pharma drugs unnecessarily, because most of them are unnecessary, if you are actively fit, if you eat a good healthy diet, if you take CBD every single day, you should never get cancer. And not only cancer, but you shouldn't get any debilitating illnesses. You
wow.
see? That's CBD's capabilities. CBD can help with a lot of issues as well, such as it can help manage issues. And I don't like to say mask, because that's a big pharma thing. Big pharma drugs mask issues.
Mhm.
CBD will help manage, but CBD cannot heal. And this is the difference. CBD can't get to the root because it's not strong enough. So say, for instance, fibromyalgia. Okay,
Mhm.
say I get a patient, they have fibromyalgia, and CBD can manage it. It can, because it will, it's an anti-inflammatory. Fibromyalgia is basically an overload of inflammation, which is what most issues are. And you have pain. The pain is from the inflammation. So CBD can reduce the inflammation, it's an anti-inflammatory, and it can heal the pain as well. But it can't heal the actual fibromyalgia. So if I have someone, for instance, this is just an example, comes to me with fibromyalgia, they can take CBD. The CBD will manage, so they don't need to be on big pharma, and they don't have so much inflammation, they don't have so much pain, they can go about their everyday issues. But deep rooted inside them, they still have the fibromyalgia. It's not going to go, it's still going to be there. It's just managed, not masked, just managed. If they, however, took cannabis oil, the cannabis oil will reverse the damage of the
Okay.
fibromyalgia. That's the difference between CBD and cannabis oil. So
Mhm.
a lot of people are scared to take cannabis oil purely because of the legalities. And that's the only reason. So I'll get people all the time, that come to me for health issues, and I'll give them both options. You can heal it or you can manage it. Most people most people don't care, let's be honest. Most people don't care, and they want to go the illegal route. And, especially because cannabis oil isn't legalized in most countries. So most people won't care, and they will go the illegal route, and they will do cannabis oil, and then they're healed and they're fine. But we do still get a huge proportion of people that don't want to go against the government. And because the government is saying that cannabis oil is illegal, they won't take it, but they take CBD. So they manage it, but they will never ever heal it, because you can't heal it unless you get to the root.
But now cannabis oil also has THC, which is the
Yeah,
component that creates that high,
the
correct?
psychoactive. Yes. So THC is the main instigator, I would say. It's the main cannabinoid. There are other cannabinoids, which CBD great in its own, but CBD can't heal. That's the issue. So THC is the main instigator, and the way THC, yes, it's psychoactive, so it gives you that high,
Hmm.
which people are often frightened of the high or
Right.
nervous of the high, and I
Yes.
believe we should embrace it, because it's only showing up for us what needs to be shown up, you see. So, and a lot of the people have bad experiences with THC when they take it incorrectly, because a lot of people, or even if you go in dispensaries, I know in Canada, you got dispensaries there, and the same as a lot of the states as well. You will go in dispensaries and they will sell you the oil, because they can say, we've always, some states with a medical marijuana card, some without. But I do know in Canada you can go and pick it up in most dispensaries.
Mhm.
But the people behind the dispensaries, a lot of them don't know how to dose. So a
Yes.
lot of them
Right.
will give them a mill of, say, 80% THC oil, and all of the instructions, the dosing instructions on the back will say exactly the same, but they don't actually know how, because they're not trained. They're probably just trained to deal with what they need to deal with, but they're not trained in cannabis. So it's dependent on every person. So you, for instance, I would dose you completely somebody different to a child, or another person, or another person with cancer. So everybody needs to have a different dosing protocol. So the thing is, with having cannabis oil, and of course THC is involved with the cannabis oil, is that people get frightened because they don't know how to take it. They either take too much, And it does give them, because if you take too much, your body can't tolerate it because it's not used to it. And you can have a psychotic episode, which does happen. And it can be quite a scary thought, especially if you've never done plant medicine before and you don't know and you don't understand and you're not being told what's going on. You know, you've just been sold this 1 ml of cannabis oil and said, here, go on your way. And that can scare people. So this is why. So people are scared to take it because they hear stories about THC and about people getting high. Me personally, I embrace the high. I love the high. It's a great feeling when you are in control of it, when you know how to dose. Because
Okay.
How long does it
you
stay in your system, though? So I'm thinking if somebody is undergoing, say, cancer treatment and is taking cannabis oil, and they still have to, the daily function. They have to go out and drive a car. They have to some still work and go through
yeah.
treatments. So how can they manage their daily lives? I mean, does this,
Yeah.
do you take it at
And
night and then by morning it's out of your
you do,
your
you take, and this is a misconception as well. People just think, oh, people that take cannabis or they're stoned out, they're high all day and all they're doing is sitting on the sofa doing nothing.
right.
You know, when I was diagnosed, I had two very young children, as a lot of the people are, and I still worked. I never had one day. The only time I had time off work was when I had to go to an appointment. So with the way that I dose, and everybody's completely different, but this is the way that I dose my patients, is that you treat it like a sleeping pill. So you will take it at nighttime.
Mhm.
It will make you a little bit sleepy. You go to sleep, you wake up in the morning and you're perfectly fine. Yes, sometimes in the morning you can feel a little bit, fatigued or a little bit wired, it's everybody's completely different. It also depends on how much you've eaten, you've drank, your weight, etc., and your body fat. It all depends. But first thing in the morning, to counteract the high, you take CBD straight under the tongue first thing in the morning, and then that levels out the high. There's loads of things you can do in the morning.
Oh,
You can
fascinating.
drink citrus is great, like drinking orange juice. That snaps it out and it gets you going. So there's you can still function on it.
Okay.
It's obviously
So,
not as straight away when you've taken it, but you can still
right.
function.
And I just have to, sorry, Peter, I know seem to be monopolizing the questions,
No, don't.
but
That's okay. You
because
have
we
more experience with mind-altering drugs than I do.
Mhm.
well, just to be clear, Dee, he's talking about my experience with ayahuasca in the Peruvian.
Oh, so you
So
did ayahuasca?
I have done, yes,
Amazing.
I've done it
I've
10
done
times. Yes.
5. I've done 5
I've done 10.
5.
ayahuascas. I've done
Wow.
5. Yes, 5. And I
Uh,
believe everybody needs to do it. Everybody should do it.
right, right. And I just wanted to ask you, Dee,
Sorry, can I just interrupt? Did you know that ayahuasca is the mother of cannabis?
is the mother of cannabis, is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
No,
So
I did not know
ayahuasca,
that.
because ayahuasca is the most potent plant medicine you can get, and it
Mhm.
has been said that cannabis, which is can be called in the traditions, the what's the word on the indigenous tribes,
Yes.
they will refer to cannabis as Santa Maria, and Santa Maria, also known as cannabis, is the child of ayahuasca.
Okay.
So whether that, I like to believe it because they do work in unison together. There's a lot of ayahuasca practitioners that
Oh,
say
they
don't
are.
take cannabis with ayahuasca, but the where I go to, my shaman believes that they are both belong to each other because they are mother and daughter practically.
Okay.
Right, and
Yeah,
there's a
Right.
lot of different brews out there. If it depends on the shop,
yeah,
they mix
yeah,
chacruna plants with the ayahuasca. Anyways, we're getting off topic here.
yeah.
So Dee, tell us from when you were diagnosed and when you started the cannabis oil, how, I mean, you were literally terminally considered
Mm.
terminally ill at this stage. How long did it take you to get rid of this cancer?
Well, I don't know, but it was definitely was within 5 months because,
What?
Wow.
yeah, I was diagnosed in March the 17th. I was diagnosed. I did have surgery, by the way. I did have surgery, which if ever I knew what I knew now, I would never have surgery, because removing the tumor doesn't remove the cancer. The cancer's in the blood.
Right.
You know, a lot of people think, oh, you've
Yeah.
had the tumor. Yes, you've had the tumor removed, but the tumor is just literally a warning sign. The cancer is riddled with cancer. It's in the blood. So when they say it's breast cancer or it's liver cancer or kidney cancer, that's the biggest lie in the cancer industry, because
Yes.
if the cancer is not just where you find that tumor, where you find that lump, that's just a warning sign. The cancer is literally in your blood. So when you are diagnosed with cancer, your body is swimming with cancer. You know, it's just nonsensical how they try to capture it
And
in
it
that
doesn't matter what kind of
organ.
cancer it is, whether
Exactly.
it's
It
breast,
doesn't matter. It's
skin,
cancer. It doesn't
anything.
matter. It's cancer. It's cancer.
Right.
So, what was the question again? What did you ask me?
Oh, I was
How long?
asking how long it took you
Oh
to.
yes, yes. So I was diagnosed March the 17th. On I think the 2nd of April, I had the tumor removed, which, and not only did they remove the tumor, but they also removed my lymph node, which they was not consented to remove that, the sentinel lymph node. So because of that, I do sometimes get issues, and anyone that has any lymph nodes removed will get the rest of their life, their immune system will be compromised. It's a
Yes.
fact. We need the lymphatic system intact, and they purposely remove your nodes. I mean, I get patients to say, oh, yeah, I've just had 30 nodes removed. 30 nodes removed. You know how your body is going to be so compromised. But they'll put it down to, oh, my God, I'm just so glad that I've lived from cancer. You know, they can't think of the bigger picture. But anyway, so I was diagnosed in March 17th. I had the tumor removed, I think about the 2nd of April. And then they kept pushing me and pushing me and pushing me to do chemo. And they bully you. Oh my
Oh, yeah.
God. It's like, you know, when you are looking at them, and I can understand why so many people succumb
Mhm.
to
Of course.
chemo, because
Fear.
they are bullied, and that's what it is. You know,
And they're
they are not doctors, they are sales advisors, sales
right.
managers, sales directors, what
But
they
it's a
are,
fear
because
tactic
they're
as
getting,
well, isn't it, Dee?
it
Because they'll
is,
tell you if you're not going to
it's,
do this, you're going to die.
you're gonna die. And they quite
Yeah.
and do you know what, just going off topic again, you know what they says to me? It's so my children at the time were 6 and 9, 6 and 9 ish, my children were. So they told me, and my daughter and a son, they told me that my son was 9. They said that he more than likely, because then they tried to tell me about genetics. Genetics, biggest load of crap. BS, it's not. Cancer is not based on genetics or DNA. Cancer is based on what you put into your body as in toxins. Anyway, they told me because it could be hereditary, which it's not. Cancer is not hereditary. Don't listen to that rubbish at all. They says to me that we needed to sterilize my son. So
What?
I have not even healed myself yet, but this is in their protocol when they're telling me that I'm going to die if I don't have chemo. But then they said, so we also need to think about your children. I'm thinking, right, okay. So my son, who at the time was 9, when he gets to maturity, when he gets to, adolescence, we need to sterilize him, because when he starts producing kids, his kids could have cancer. And I'm just like in shock. And then when my daughter hits puberty and she starts developing breasts, they wanted to give her a double mastectomy.
Ah,
Can you believe that? And at that time, my daughter was 6 years old. And then they're asking me to go into like dates when she's 13, when she's 12. And I'm like, can you actually listen to yourself? You're just crazy. But the amount of people that do actually go through that, can you see what I mean? So they try to tell you that, oh, if you want to be a good mother, then you need to give the best star for your children. So can you imagine? I was strong-headed. Can you imagine someone that is weaker?
sure. Yeah.
And they're already signing their 5, 6-year-old daughter when she's 13, she's going to have her breast removed, even though she might not even have breasts by the time she's 13.
Yeah.
It was
Right.
crazy.
Crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
It was
We,
crazy. So anyway, so I had so that was April. They kept pushing me. The only way I could get them off my back, because they do hound you, these oncologists. I said, look, give me 3 months. let me do things my way, because I'm not quite sure. That's why my brand is called My Way, because I said, let me do things
Okay.
my way, because I already kind of knew that I wanted to do with diets and supplements and cannabis oil. And after 3 months, because I wanted to keep it open, I didn't know, because I didn't know if I was putting myself there into a territory which I was going to regret. I didn't know. So I kind of thought, I need you back up for my testing, for my blood test, for all of this, just to check. So I said, give me 3 months and let me know. If 3 months I'm in a worse situation than I'm in now, then yes, okay, I'll agree to the chemo. Even though I wasn't going to agree to the chemo, it was just to get them off my back for those 3 months. So that was April. So May, June, July, and then I was supposed to have an appointment with them in July. But I cancelled the appointments. I decided to go on a 2-week holiday with my family. I thought, I'm going on a holiday because I don't know what's going to happen after this. I didn't know what I was going to do, because I felt great. I felt better than ever. After about 2 weeks of taking the cannabis oil, I suddenly felt better than I'd ever done in my whole life. I didn't feel sick anymore. I'd also, previous to that, I had 3 slip discs in my back with just on a stupid accident. And up until that point, I was constantly having to have, and I hate Big Pharma, but I needed the drugs because I couldn't even walk. You know, I was paralyzed. When I first slipped my disc, I was paralyzed for 6 months. So for 20 odd years or 15 years, I was on a concoction of very strong painkillers, very strong anti-inflammatories, very strong sleeping pills, because the pain in my back was so bad if I didn't have them. When I was taking the cannabis oil, after about 2 weeks, I noticed that I usually, before that, I would wake up in the morning, I'd be stiff. First thing I need to do is take an anti-inflammatory. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to walk for the rest of the day. After about 2 weeks taking the cannabis oil, I realized that when I was getting up in the morning, I wasn't reaching for my pills for my back. And up until then, I've never taken another pill for my back again. My slip discs have all healed. It's amazing.
Fantastic.
So yeah, I've never ever needed another Big Pharma drug since I've been on oil, and I was on such a concoction for such a long time.
Wow.
So I was supposed to go back in July. I cancelled that. I went in August. August was when I had my tests, and that's when they told me that I was cancer free. There was no evidence
Free.
of disease in my body.
Wow.
So from March to August, I don't know. I don't know
5
how
months.
long I
Wow,
could have.
isn't that
I like to say 5 months.
Yeah.
I could have healed in 2 months, 3 months, who knows?
Quite
Because
incredible.
I wasn't keeping tab.
Dee, we are rapidly running out of time, and we got a couple of other things we must definitely
Yes.
ask you. So Kathleen's had a good shot with questions. I'm going to slip a quick one in, and this and I have a problem. I lived in Africa for almost all my life until 20 years ago, and I came to Canada. I have a history of skin cancer. I've had something like 160 excisions, of which over 100 have been diagnosed as either squamous or basal cell. So my question to you, do you think that the cannabis oil would help me?
Yes. So can I just ask you, was you having these skin cancers removed?
Yeah, I've had
That's
over
the,
100.
that's why you keep getting them, because you're having them removed. You're not getting to the roots. We need to find what's the root cause. So you can have them removed. It's like having tumors removed. You can have the lumps out of your breast taken all the time. It's exactly the same as cancer. So if all you're doing is having the skin cancers, the lesions, whatever removed, you're not addressing the blood. The cancer's in the blood. So unless you address what's going on in the blood, you may keep getting these lesions and skin cancers and lesions and skin cancers. Removing them is not healing, as which I said earlier. Removing the tumor, which is the skin cancer, does not heal the cancer. So this is why you keep getting them, because you're not gone to the root. So yes, if you took cannabis oil, you would not get any more lesions, and that's cannabis. Skin cancers are very, very easy to heal. They're
Yeah.
probably the easiest cancer to heal.
now?
Don't have them removed. Just leave them.
Now
Don't have them removed.
you have skincare products that are CBD oil
Yes,
based, don't you?
yes, we do.
But
Yes,
it
we do. So
okay, go ahead. So is
I was
this
just going to say we have a body oil, a hair oil, and a healing balm. The hair oil was specifically developed for chemo patients because of the people that I help, not all of them want to be natural. A lot of them do chemo. So we tested it on 4 chemo patients over the course of 12 weeks, and every one of them, the hair grew back a lot quicker. So
Wow.
it encourages the scalp, encourages the hair to grow. and grow back thicker, because when you've had chemo, sometimes your hair can just come completely different to what it's supposed to be. We have a body oil as well, and we have a healing balm. And even if you've never had skin cancer, you just rub this all over your body, and you shouldn't get skin cancer, because everything that goes topically goes into your bloodstream.
Mm-hmm.
So the CBD is going into your bloodstream, exactly the same as if you was ingesting it. So if you're topically using the body oil all over your body, you shouldn't get skin cancer, because
Are
your
your
bloodstream is absorbing it.
are your products available internationally?
Yes, we do ship worldwide. We only ship, obviously, to countries that are legal in CBD. There are still countries like Dubai. It's illegal in Dubai, so we can't
Sure.
sell to Dubai. There's only a handful of countries that we don't ship to.
Oh, fantastic. Now, can you tell us a little bit about your book? And we were just running very short on time here, but if you can just tell us a few
So
words.
my book is called My Way. You can get it either on my site, on my store, or on Amazon or Barnes and Noble. You can pretty much get it on any online bookstore. It's basically, so when I healed from cancer, and I put a post up on Facebook to say that I healed naturally, and I did that. Nobody even knew that I had cancer. It was very, very quiet. It was very private, and I literally got thousands of messages. It was so much that I had to just literally switch my Facebook off for a little while. I only had a little bit of a following, friends and family kind of thing. And the amount of people that told me that I needed, and this is back in 2017, hardly anybody knew about cannabis back then. And a lot of people told me you should write a book, you should write a book. And I was thinking, who's going to want to read my book, But so I wrote the book, and I published it on Amazon, and that was it. I self-published it. I left it on Amazon, and then I think I just did a post on Facebook. It went crazy. It went viral. Literally within the first month, it was an Amazon. It's been an Amazon bestseller now, I think 3 or 4 times over. It
Wow.
became an Amazon bestseller. And when there's a natural or a factual book, I believe, that suddenly gets bestseller status, then the press get involved. And this is why I'm talking to you now, because it got fast forwarded to a bestseller status. The press got involved, obviously, because it was cancer and cannabis. And that's when I was in all of the media and being interviewed back in 2018, around that time. So then that took me on this journey. I just thought I would write this book, and then that's it. It's closure. But that was actually the start of me then helping. Everything happens for a reason. That was the start of me helping people. So it's called My Way. It's basically just a journal of everything I went through from the minute I found that lump to the end. And it's great because it's my words. It's how I felt. I am raw on there. I am emotional. I am telling it like it is. I'm using the knowledge from my pharmaceutical background to exploit big pharma, should we say? Or, I'm exploiting all the corruption. I'm giving people the actual reasons why we get cancer, because everybody wants to be in this mindset that, oh yeah, my mum had cancer or my aunt had cancer, so I'm going to get cancer. No, you're not. We get
And
cancer
also,
from what we put in our bodies.
and also to dispel this myth that I can't be cured. I've got stage 4 and I can't. I don't know
Yeah,
how many times I hear that from people on, that I hear on Facebook. Oh, I'm
yeah,
terminal. There's just no cure. There's no cure. And
yeah,
they've
yeah.
just convinced themselves of this,
Yeah,
and it's so
and that's what it
sad.
is. They convince themselves because they are told. They
Yes.
are told that it's incurable, and this whole ringing of the bell. I mean, that's sorcery in itself. And then they call people like me witch doctors. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Everything is just crazy. Everything is it's inverted. Everything is completely backwards. Every single cancer can be healed. We don't say cured. There's a reason why we don't say cured, because every single person has cancer cells in their body.
Yeah.
You have cancer cells. Peter has cancer cells. We all were born with cancer cells. Cancer cells are not something to be frightened of. Our immune system decides whether or not these cancer cells become malignant. The
Mhm.
cancer cells are swimming through our body, just being happy, swimming around, being benign. It's
Mhm.
only when we have an overload of toxicity in our body and our mind that switches the benign cancer cells to become malignant. But even if they become malignant, they can be malignant for a little while. Then your immune system can switch them back to benign. The amount of people that find lumps in their breast or wherever, I know if people come to me and they say, I found a lump in my breast, you know what I say to them? I say, well, leave it. Don't touch it. Don't go and get a mammogram. Worst thing you can do. Don't have a biopsy. Worst thing you can do. You don't even need to have an ultrasound, because as soon as you're in that system, you've got it in your head that you've got cancer.
Yes.
So I just say to people, treat it as if it is cancer. Clean up your diet, take some supplementation, do some exercise, take some cannabis oil, it will be gone. And the amount of people that followed my advice, don't even step foot in a doctor's surgery, after a week, 2 weeks, the lumps disappeared. So the body can reverse. If your body makes an issue, your body can reverse that issue. The issue is only exasperated when we step foot into that doctor's surgery.
That's right.
You know?
Well, Dee, I think we're going to have you back for another conversation. We're out of
Absolutely.
I'd love to
oh
come
my
back.
goodness, there's so many other questions we had for you today, but I think the long and short of it is cannabis oil really is a magical oil that it doesn't matter what you have, whether it's managing pain, whether it's insomnia, or even probably even high blood pressure. You could
everything,
Right.
because it puts the body in a homeostatic state.
Right. Right.
And that's what we want. Once we've got balance, we're happy and healthy.
Right.
You know,
Well,
and it's not only physical as well. See, I think cannabis is probably the only plant that works not on the physicality, but on the mental state of mind as well. Because your mental state of mind controls your physical body.
Sure.
You know, if you are mentally suffering, your body eventually will physically suffer as well. So everything that's created in the physical body, we've created in our mind. That's what we've done. If you're going to tell yourself every day you've got cancer, then guess what? You're going to get cancer.
That's right.
Right.
Positivity,
Peter.
that's what it's all about.
Well, first, quick one. Dee, how do people contact you?
Yes.
Okay, so you can find me on all social media. You can just look at D Manny Official. I have my websites. There's the CBD website, which is My Way CBD, and I have my own website, which is dmanny.com. So you can contact me pretty much everywhere and anywhere.
Great. And thank you. We will, for our audio listeners, all those contact details will be in the description on whatever platform you are listening to this on. And I know we're well over time, but I am going to slip my burning question in before we go. And Dee, my burning question is this. We ask all our expert guests, if you could give one tip to our audience who may be weighed down by all the negativity in the world, and I don't need to go into it, and we're not negative, what would be one tip you could tell our audience to start doing today to help them lead a better, healthier, and better balanced life?
Switch everything off. That's the
Good one.
best thing. Switch everything off. Switch the news off. Switch the TV off. Stop reading newspapers, you know, and just listen to your body. Listen to your mind. You don't need, it's just noise. Switch the noise off. Live your life.
Excellent.
Live your life.
Brilliant.
Well,
Thank you, Dee.
Dee, this
You're
was
welcome.
fantastic. Well, my goodness, thank you so much. We are going to have you back for
Yeah,
another
let's do a
interview.
series. We can do a series, can't we?
Yes.
Let's do a
Yes.
series.
Absolutely. We would love to do that with you. Thank you so much for being on
You're
our show
very
today.
welcome.
And
Thank
thank
you
you
guys.
all so very much for tuning in once again. And if you want to connect with Dee, there's also another way to do that, and that is to join our brand new Facebook group. It's a community forum. It's called the Yakking Show Community Forum, and perhaps we can put a link to that, Peter.
We will do in the description. Yeah.
Into the description. So if you have any questions, please go there and ask Dee. So until next time, everyone, take care. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.